So for question number 57, it states that in recent years the cost of producing organic produce in the United States has decreased largely due to technological advances. Now anytime we see that there's a technological advancement, that's going to lead to an increase in supply. And at the same time, more and more Americans prefer organic over conventional, so more and more Americans prefer organic produce over conventional. That means that there's going to be an increase in demand as the popularity of the item increases. So which of the following best explains the effects of these events in the organic produce market? Now we can easily eliminate scenario A here because it says that the supply curve has shifted to the left and the demand curve has shifted to the right. We know an increase in supply is going to be represented by a rightward shift of our supply curve. So we can also, by that same logic, eliminate D here because it once again is saying that the supply curve has shifted to the left. Now both B and C gives us the correct shifts of our supply, and our demand curve says both supply and demand have shifted to the right. But the most important thing that this question is asking is what's going to happen to price and quantity. Now, if we look at our impact on supply, anytime supply goes up, that's going to lead to price going down, and that's going to lead to quantity going up. Anytime demand goes up, that's going to lead to the price going up and the quantity going up. So we know for sure that quantity is going to increase because on both the sides of the supply and the demand curve we see quantity has gone up. So also looking at the price though, we see our supply impact is causing the price to go down while our demand impact is causing the price to go up. So with that, we don't know exactly what's going to happen to our equilibrium price. And the reason why is because we don't know which one's going to have the larger impact. Is the technological advancement going to outweigh the increase in demand from more Americans wanting to buy organic over the conventional produce? Since we don't have enough information, it's going to be indeterminate as to what's going to happen to the equilibrium price. So we will say that we don't have enough information, or we're just uncertain on the effects of equilibrium price. Question number 58. Which of the following will cause the equilibrium price of apple juice to decrease and the equilibrium quantity of apple juice to increase? Alright, so what's going to cause price to go down and quantity to go up? And we kind of just touched on this in our last question. In order for price to go down and quantity to go up, there needs to be an increase in supply. There needs to be an increase in supply. So this is Q2 and P2, and I forgot to draw in my initial equilibrium, which would be right here, P1 and Q1. So this is anytime there's an increase in supply, it causes price to go down and causes quantity to go up. So as we look at the market for apple juice, we need to see which one of these will cause supply to increase. A decrease in the price of granola bars, that's going to be a demand impact, so it says a complement, so that's demand side. A decrease in the price of apples, alright, so that's an input. So whenever the price of an input goes down, that will lead to an increase in supply. Now we can eliminate C, once again a substitute, that's going to be a demand side effect, and an increase in the price of apples would decrease supply. Alright, so the answer is B. Alright, so question number 74, and I believe Melissa had the question wanting to get some clarification on changes between demand and quantity demanded. Now, anytime you're looking at demand looks at the overall relationship between all of the different prices and all of the different quantities that consumers are willing and able to purchase at those given prices. So demand looks at the entire relationship. Quantity demanded, on the other hand, looks at one specific price. So quantity demand will be represented as one point along the demand curve. So we would say that at the price of $5, the quantity that consumers would want at that price is 10 units. And if the price were to go down to $3, we would see that the quantity that consumers would demand will go up. So maybe it goes up to 15 units. So quantity demanded is always going to be represented by a point on the existing demand curve, and it looks at one specific price. The same with quantity supplied in the supply curve. Now this question is looking at finding equilibrium price and quantity. Now anytime our market's going to be in equilibrium, well, in order for our market to be in equilibrium, quantity demand must be equal to your quantity supplied. Now we're given our demand equation and our supply equation, so all we have to do is set those two equations equal to each other. So 50 minus 2p is going to be equal to negative 10 plus 2p. Alright, so let's solve for p. Now I hate dealing with negatives, so I'm going to add 2p to both sides. So I'm left with 50 is equal to negative 10 plus 4p. Then next we're going to add 10 to both sides. So I'm left with 60 is equal to 4p. And then lastly, we just divide both sides by 4. I know that those are going to cancel out. And I have 15 is equal to our price. Now, since the market's in equilibrium and quantity demand is equal to quantity supplied, it doesn't matter which equation I plug this price into to solve for quantity. So let me just plug it into our demand equation here. So that will be 50 minus 2 times 15, which is going to be equal to 50 minus 30, which equals 20. So our equilibrium quantity in this case is going to be equal to 20 units. So our answer, $15. Quantity is 20,000 units. So for question number 76. Question number 76. Alright, I don't have 76 up, so let me just read it off. Now for 76, we're given our demand table, not our demand table, but our inverse demand equation. P is equal to 80 minus QD. And then we're also given QD is equal to 80 minus P. And then we also have the supply information. So I have P is equal to 50 plus 0.5 QS. So that's our inverse supply equation. And then we also have that QS is equal to 2P minus 100. So the question is asking for our equilibrium price and quantity again. So in order for us to get equilibrium price and quantity, we just need to set QD equal to QS. So for QD, I'm just going to plug in my demand equation, and for QS, I'm just going to plug in our supply information. So we have 80 minus P is equal to 2P minus 100. So if I add 100 to both sides, I get 180 minus P is equal to 2P. Add P to both sides. I'm left with 180 is equal to 3p. And then lastly, divide both sides by 3. That cancels out. I'm left with just p. And I would see that 60 is going to be equal to our equilibrium price. Now, to find our equilibrium quantity, once again, I'll just plug 60 in for p, and the demand equation is going to be the easiest. So all I would do is say QD is equal to 80 minus P, which is 60, 20. So we would say that 20 is equal to our equilibrium quantity. Alright, so I hope this helps, and if you have any other questions as you guys are preparing for your exam, please feel free to email me and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible.